On this episode of Locked On Angels, nothing more exciting than a walk-off walk. It gave the Angels their first win against the Rangers in 9 games. We got some things that we noticed from the game last night that we're going to share with you today. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our 4th season as a host of Locked On Angels. We've been fans of this team our whole lives, and we're talking Angels baseball with you every single day, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. You can always count on us to be there for you. On today's show, Kikuchi is an all-star, and he shared what he feels like got him there. But who was snubbed? I snubbed her. Who was snubbed in this one? We'll share our thoughts on that. But first, let's talk about the walk-off. Mike, the Angels win this one 6-5 on Monday night.
Yeah, how it ended was a Rengifo leadoff double in the bottom of the 9th. Then with 1 out, Kevin Newman singled. Now a lot of people were like, how come you're not going to pinch hit? Because they didn't have anybody to play third base if they didn't actually score in that inning.
Can I just say, though, Mike, I'm starting to feel like I'd rather have Newman in the lineup than Chad Stevens.
I agree.
Am I the only one who feels that way? I feel weird saying it, but
I think the average is, when it comes to baseball, they're going to even out. And with Kevin Newman starting off so terrible, he's not even playing at his expected numbers. And so I think he's somebody that you're going to see maybe a better second half from. But last night, first pitch swinging, hits a ball into left field. Rengifo goes to third base. And then Zach Neto gets intentionally walked. And then Nolan Schanuel has a great at bat. First pitch, he lines down the right field line, just foul. The next pitch, he fouls off. And then, John, it was a ball, and then another foul, and then 3 consecutive balls that he did not chase. All of them were down and away. And you and I have talked about the scouting report against these Angels. And if you want to get them out, you want to get them swinging and missing, you just throw it down and away. Schanuel was so patient at the plate, and he drew the walk-off walk, gave the Angels the victory over the Rangers last night.
I loved that it was against Hobie Milner as well, because he left the Angels and was great for the Brewers and tore it up out of their bullpen. And so for us to get that win against him, I think it's fantastic. And Kenley Jansen picks up a win in this one as well.
Yeah,
so
and I don't want to dismiss what he did in the top of the 9th. He was awesome, right? That error on Neto from Corey Seager, ball goes right up the middle, right? And it's just an error. Not Corey Seager, it was the guy before him, Haggerty. And Neto played it perfectly, but the ball just kind of ate him up. And then it didn't throw Jansen at all. He got Corey Seager to ground into a double play. And then, of course, Marcus Semien gets out as well. And Jansen threw 6 pitches in that inning. The guy 7. He is just so cool and so comfortable in any and every situation. Even though this wasn't a safe situation, it was a moment where he was able to get the game to the bottom of the 9th inning, and he did his job.
Yeah. Hey, so let's get to our takeaways from this one. I know we talked about the end of the game there, which is super exciting. But Kikuchi, announced as an all-star, but he pitched like an angel, Mike. He went 5 innings, 6 hits, gave up 4 runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts through 97 pitches, raised his ERA to 3.02. He gave up his first home run to a lefty in this game. It was Corey Seager, of course. Wasn't as crisp as we've seen in the last 5 starts, and feels like this is one of those inevitable bad starts that takes place among a series of good starts, or Is it something more? What do you say?
I think it's just one of those bad starts. Soriano had one of those, and we've seen that from everybody in this rotation. And when Kikuchi gets on a roll, you kind of expect him to be that guy in every start. And last night, he just didn't seem to have it. Now, I don't know if that tumble in the first inning caused him to kind of be thrown off a little bit. It was kind of a clown show when he went to go get the ball and then tripped over the mound and just rolled. And you could tell he was frustrated with himself.
When the ball got hit back at Charlie Brown when he was pitching on the mound and it gets hit back at him and it makes him spin and all of his stuff falls off. That's what happened to Kikuchi. But on the other side of things, Mike, this was the first time in 13 consecutive games that Jacob deGrom has given up more than 2 runs. His last 13 starts, 2 runs or less. And so the fact that both these guys didn't have their best outing or their best stuff, it's just one of those things. And so, for as much as you mentioned the inevitable bad start across a series of great starts, same thing happened for deGrom. And so at least they were able to get out of this one with not like a huge deficit or anything like that. It was 4-3 for most of the game until the Angels were able to work their way back.
Yeah, speaking of the offense, John, second takeaway, the Angels did in this game what they didn't do over the weekend. They had productive outs, and they did it early. Bottom of first, Zach Neto leads off with a double. Then Schanuel moves him to third on a ground ball to first base, and then Mike Trout hits a sac fly to left field, and they score the run. And that was what we've been asking from this team. That's what we want from this team. I wonder if they recognize how much better things go for them when they make contact and have productive outs. I wonder I don't think that they're forgetting that. It just seems like at the time, in the moment, that's not the first thought that they have. But last night, we saw them really trying to make sure that if they get that runner at third with less than 2 outs, they're going to get that runner in. And the reason why I felt like they were trying to make sure is because Mike Trout swung at the first pitch in that at bat and hit the sac fly to left field. And so that's very un-Mike Trout-like so far this season. He's getting on base 40% of the time, which is great, but he hasn't swung at a first pitch in a while. And so for him to do that last night tells me that it was on the forefront of his mind.
We've been begging him to swing and be aggressive, and maybe he's an everydayer, Mike. So maybe he's taking John and Mike's advice. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
But the truth is that as we went over last week, when they make contact, it's usually quality contact, at least, 400% of the time, right? 40% of the time, I should say. And one instance that comes to mind is like Joe Adell hitting it the opposite way, and it was a line drive, but Adolis Garcia was right there waiting for it, right? And so it's just like, man, it's those kinds of hits that, induce quality contact. And, in most situations that might not be caught. It might be a base hit. So yeah, it seemed like there was better recognition throughout this game in this one. How about this one? Our third takeaway, Travis d'Arnaud did something no other right-handed hitter has done this season against Jacob deGrom. Tell us what that is, Mike.
It happened in the second inning. deGrom threw a slider and d'Arnaud hit it out for a home run. It was the first home run allowed when throwing the slider to a right-hander this season by deGrom. I love this tweet from Sarah Langs. She tweeted, Travis d'Arnaud has caught Jacob deGrom in 60 games, by far the most frequent catcher in deGrom's career. This was their 9th head-to-head plate appearance. d'Arnaud has singled the first time they ever faced. He homered in the second plate appearance. Then deGrom got him in 6 straight plate appearances until he hit the home run. And that was a great home run. He crushed that ball to left field.
All right, question. Who knows each other better? A pitcher and his catcher, the battery mates, or us being brothers? What do you think?
I think it's us.
Okay, easy.
Yeah. I'm going to lean on that. The Angels did score some runs last night, John, and they did it in bunches. And they started off looking pretty good. They scored 3 runs on 3 extra base hits in the first and second inning last night. And d'Arnaud was the driver of that offense, again, hitting that home run in the bottom of the second. Then he doubled in the bottom of the 6th to tie the game at 4 at that time. Again, 3 singles and 3 hits, 3 extra base hits, and 3 runs. And then they only had 3 singles and no runs until that d'Arnaud double, which was great. And then the Angels, I love this, tried to capitalize in the 6th inning. They did pinch hit for Chad Stevens with Wade Lamont Jr., and late night Lamont did exactly what he was supposed to do, right?
Yeah, he did it with a nice little single that put the Angels in the lead. And so that was good for the time being. Then they were able to bring in Reed Detmers to face the middle part of the order. And so Seager got a single, but Semien grounded into a double play, and then Adolis Garcia flew out to center field. Detmers hasn't given up an earned run since May 17th. Little spoiler alert for segment 3. Where the heck is Detmers in this all-star team? Give me a break, right?
Yeah.
So then it was really interesting because, like you said, they played with some urgency here for our fourth takeaway, and that's with Ray Montgomery managing. And he got up in the umpire's face after Mike Trout argued a strike call. Now, there was a bad strike 3 call on Jorge Soler with the bases loaded. It was in the shadow zone or whatever they call it, the shadow realm. Any Yu-Gi-Oh fans out there? But it was in that shadow area of the zone. But the guy had been calling that same spot a ball the whole at bat and every at bat before that. So Soler lays off and the Angels miss an opportunity. So then when Trout gets rung up on strike 3, he had some questions for the umpire. And then Ray Montgomery comes out, got himself ejected. You saw before they went to a commercial break that Ray was yelling at the umpire.
Pretty fired up.
Came back. You could see that he was ejected after that. So all that to say, it came down to the top of the 8th, and we actually have some questions about the fact that Ryan Goins, who started as the infield coach, who is now the bench coach behind interim manager Ray Montgomery, his management came into question, didn't it, Mike?
Yeah, so Sam Bachman comes in, and he gets all the batters out. But unfortunately, Jake Berger strikes out on a wild pitch. So the ball gets away, and d'Arnaud can't throw him out. So Jake Berger is at first base. And the next batter is Josh Smith. He's a left-handed batter, and Sam Bachman's a right-handed pitcher. And the numbers say you need to bring a lefty in. Brock Berg is warming up in the bullpen, and Josh Smith's numbers against right-handers, hitting 300 with a 137 weighted runs created plus. Against lefties, 220 with a 56 weighted runs created plus. So Brock Berg's warm. Sam Bachman was good, right? But he's facing a lefty, and that lefty's good against right-handed pitchers. So let's go get Brock. And they don't. The next pitch was to Evan Carter, and not Evan Carter. The next pitch was to Josh Smith, and he doubles down the line. First pitch, doubles down the line. Then they go in and get Brock Berg to face the next lefty, Evan Carter, and he gets him out on a soft, easy ground ball, one pitch, one out situation. So it felt like Ray Montgomery was managing with urgency last night, having Wade Lamont Jr. pitch hit in the 6th inning, bringing in Reed Detmers to face the middle of the order in the 7th inning. It just felt like he was managing to win this game. Wasn't thinking about tomorrow, wasn't thinking about the next day, managing to win this game. When he got tossed, it just felt like Ryan Goings was running in, right? And then, okay, I'm here, guys. I'm here,
panicked,
right?
Yeah.
And no judgment of him. I get it. But it felt like he didn't have the whole game plan in front of him. And this is where you need your assistant coaches. This is where you need those guys on the bench to go, hey, buddy, we really need to. Barry Enright needs to say, dude. And you saw them talking. They were talking before. And this is a moment. And I get that maybe you're going to try to trust Sam Bachman in that moment. But if you're managing to win this game, go get the lefty. And Brock Berg proved why you bring him in, because he got the next left-handed batter, Evan Carter, on an easy, soft ground out.
Last takeaway is Victor Medeiros was called up from AAA. Hunter Strickland was placed on the 15-day injured list with right shoulder inflammation. Medeiros did get into this game, but it drives me crazy when they bring him up to be a bullpen guy, because he has proven over his career, maybe the numbers aren't fantastic, but he's a much better starter than out of the bullpen at any point that he's ever been up with a major league club and out of the bullpen. He always goes back down and pitches great as a starter. And it concerned me because he walked the first guy. Now he did strike out the next guy, hit the third batter, struck out the next batter, got the final out on a ground ball. Now the stuff was really good, especially the sinker that was sitting 96, 97, had 20 to 21 inches of horizontal break. So he has looked better in this one than he has in previous appearances. So good to see him have success. But I got to tell you, I was I was concerned, Mike, because
Same.
they always do this to him. And I actually feel bad for him that they do this to him. So fortunately it worked out. The Angels take this one 6-5 in the bottom of the ninth with Nolan Schanuel's walk-off. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, who was snubbed and why we're laughing and laughing and laughing at how laughable these snubs are. We'll talk about all of that coming right up.
How about getting in on all of the action, the baseball action, maybe the golf action, or maybe the high-stakes soccer action this summer with FanDuel? You can get in on the game like never before. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups in the app. It keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet every single day. And it's so easy to use. There's fast payouts, and it makes regular season games even feel more must-watch like events. Whether I'm placing the same game parlay or I'm watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel is going to help me to stay involved and get in on all the action, whether it's my favorite team or it's just the team that I'm watching on the MLB network. FanDuel helps me to stay engaged. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open the app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike, we had ourselves an all-star. Of course, it's the kind of mandatory all-star that the Angels get in this one. So it was Yusei Kikuchi, which is great. And he joins a great list of players, of left-handers specifically, who, are lefties that have been all-stars as Angels. So it's Yusei Kikuchi. Last year it was Tyler Anderson, Hector Santiago. Before that, CJ Wilson, Joe Saunders. Oh, I skipped Brian Fuentes because I don't know how in the world he was an all-star that year because he drove me nuts in 2009.
Yep.
Chuck Finley 4 times, Mark Langston 3 times, Frank Tanana 3 times as well, and then Clyde Wright all the way back in 1970 for Kikuchi. Before last night's game, he had 18 starts. And he's been very good. A 2.81 ERA, 106 strikeouts across 102 and a third innings pitched, a 9.32 Ks per 9, and then a 2.3 K to walk ratio. Had only allowed 11 homers before that one to Seager. And then those previous 11 starts, he had a 2.05 ERA. Mike, I love this. He cut his walk rate from 13% in his first 13 starts to just 5% in his last 5. That's weird. 13% in the first 13 starts, 5% in the last 5 starts. Go get yourself a lotto ticket or, do a bet on FanDuel. Now, what did he have to say about the success that he's had over these last few starts?
Yeah, he said maybe the first 10 games or so, I didn't feel like myself. I thought something was missing, and I thought making a mechanical adjustment or whatnot was appropriate. Talking with the pitching coaches, the GM, they helped me out a lot. The last few starts, I felt like myself again. I've also, I have to say thanks to my catchers, Logan O'Hoppe and Travis d'Arnaud, for leading me. They're always prepared, and I can trust them. We'll come back to that in just a moment. He, on his all-star selection, John, Kikuchi said, all my teammates were really happy. Perry came in, delivered a heartfelt message, really got to me, felt a little emotional. After that, I just have this feeling that there's something special about this team this year. Now, when asked if he will actually pitch in the game, he said, not exactly sure yet. My biggest focus is just helping this team and trying to get to the postseason with this team. So I'm not going to forget that fact, and I'm going to put the team first. So let's talk about 2 things here, John. First, he gave a lot of credit, Kikuchi did, to Barry Enright, Perry Manassian, but specifically named Logan O'Hoppe and Travis d'Arnaud as very prepared and very helpful, and they have brought a lot to helping him get better. So do you think that this helps to dismantle some of the narratives around the Angels that they just don't help anybody get better? Look at Griffin Canning and right. Like this is another, I think, check in the box that the Angels have proven to help pitchers, hitters, players get better, and they're helping Kikuchi to get better this year.
They're certainly trying to change that narrative around, and they've certainly built themselves a track record of doing so. It was like that question the other day I got on Twitter. It was like, what does Barry Enright even do? And I said, this? and it was Reed Detmer's stats from his last couple of outings in the bullpen, because they're figuring things out. I think that you've said it before, Mike. It takes 3 years for a new leader or new leadership to come in and kind of put their fingerprint on something. And we're seeing a fingerprint in terms of maybe the coaching staff, maybe Barry Enright, just in year 2 in some sense. So you kind of hope that there's some consistency. You kind of hope that there's some, not a lot of turnover, especially with Ron Washington probably not coming back, I would assume. I know he's got the option for next year, but you wonder how much the coaching staff will stick together. But then you also want to give a manager an opportunity to pick their own coaching staff, right? So you just don't quite know how these things might shake out. But I also have to laugh that he gave credit to Perry Manassian, because all I can think of is, George talking to Derek Jeter and teaching him how to swing the bat. And it's all what does he say? It's all science, or it's all angles, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny to think about Perry Manassian giving Kikuchi, well, Kikuchi, I think you should do this with your arm slot and da-da-da. Yeah.
We won the World Series in 6
games. Yeah. Exactly.
Kikuchi also said he's trying to get to the postseason, and he's willing to forego his all-star opportunity to help make that happen. Now, how much of this do you think is a reflection of the actual attitude in the locker room, John? Because we've heard kind of that narrative from a lot of guys, like, hey, this team is good, we're tight-knit. But Kikuchi has been somebody who has mentioned the postseason on multiple occasions. So what do you think is going on in his head compared to what's happening in the locker room right now?
Well, I think he's doing his part, and the numbers prove that, and the fact that he's made changes to get better prove that. So if anybody deserves to get to the postseason, I think it's Yusei Kikuchi and the way he's been pitching. Now, obviously, it's a whole team effort. Obviously, he can't go unless his whole team goes. But I have appreciated all of his comments about, hey, the Angels haven't made it in 10 years. I want to try to fix that. I want to help them out and do that. Mike, that's what I was kind of hoping would happen with Shohei, to be honest with you. And, and maybe it's just like that, kind and considerate Japanese attitude that we saw with Shohei over the years. Maybe Kikuchi kind of has the same thing. Like, it's a mindset. It's a matter of like, you know what? I want to help them get there. I think I can help them get there. And he's put in the work. He's put in the time. He's gotten better. I know last night was a little bit rough, but still kept him in the game. And still, it wasn't a blowout or anything like that. And so for Kikuchi to say stuff like that, that's how he wins me over. Right. And the same thing we talked about yesterday with Logan. It was like, hey, it sucks that you're doing terrible right now, but like, at least you're telling us that you're working on it. You're trying to solve it. You're not just like, I don't know what my problem is. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important. And that's a great attitude for all of these guys to have in the locker room. So I think it is a reflection of that locker room attitude.
If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had maybe an emergency at your home, like a pipe burst, the first plumber that you call. If they didn't answer, you don't wait for them to call you back. You just move on to the next plumber, right? And that's why you need OpenPhone. Having a reliable business line is so important, and OpenPhone is here to help you with that. They are the #1 business phone system that help you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or on a computer. Ever juggle 2 phones? Because you got the business phone, you got your personal phone.
I'm not Walter White. I don't have 2 phones.
Well, OpenPhone is solving that problem for people. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers in a shared inbox. No more, hey, who's handling this? John, is it you? Is it me? Is it you? Is it me? Like, and that's what's great about OpenPhone. They help you out, and they have an AI agent that handles after hours calls, answers commonly asked questions, and captures leads so that you never miss a customer ever again. OpenPhone is offering our Locked On Angel listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with other services, OpenPhone is going to port those over at no extra charge because they just are that great. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Now, there's always a player or two that gets left off the All-Star team that we wish would be there, right? And so there's often times where that happens. Sometimes we luck out, like Jared Walsh got to be a reserve in 2021. He made that game-saving catch in left field where he's never played in his entire MLB career. And for some reason, he was out in left field, there he was making a sliding catch. So that was great to see. Obviously, we've had Shohei there. Mike Trout has been selected to go, even though in the last few years he's been injured. He's still got in. Funny enough, he didn't get in this year, and he's played more this year than he has over the last couple of years. So it's just like, that's the way it goes sometimes. But Mike, who are the biggest snubs here from the Angels who didn't get a spot on the All-Star team?
Let's start with the obvious, Joe Adell. He's had an incredible June that has really helped his overall numbers. This is entering last night. He was hitting .351 with a .322 on base, a .506 slugging. And this is for the season that we're talking about, an .828 OPS and a .127 OPS plus. Those are really great numbers. He didn't get in. But you know who did? John's favorite player. Actually, it's not your favorite player. Julio Rodriguez got in.
Did I catch it? Did I not? I can't tell you. Oh, I got it.
Here's his slash line compared to Joe Adell's. Let me remind you of Joe's. .251, .322, .506, .828 OPS with a .127 OPS plus. Rodriguez is slashing entering last night. .247, .307 on base, .387 slugging, .694 OPS, and a .103 OPS plus. Now, I loved this tweet. I don't remember who it was from. I was just scrolling through Twitter. But somebody posted this, and I loved it. Rowdy Tellez was released by the Mariners 2 weeks ago after posting a .683 OPS and had 11 home runs. Julio Rodriguez is named an All-Star for the Mariners today after posting a .695 OPS and 11 home runs. Mm-hmm. Now, Joe could get named to the team because there's players that may not be able to play or there's injuries or whatnot. But this feels like a snub, and then it just feels like a slap in the face because Julio gets selected and he's not having a great year. No. George Springer should be on this team
100%.
Before Julio Rodriguez, let alone Joe Adell. So, John, I'm going to let you have the floor because I can't wait for what you have to say about this.
Well, look, the thing that's been bothering me about this whole thing is somebody put up the comparison graphic of, Julio and Joe Adell. And Julio has 3-point-something WAR, and Joe Adell has 1.7 WAR. And so people are saying, well, he's got more WAR. And I say, okay, well, then let's take away the Triple Crown from Miguel Cabrera and give the MVP to Mike Trout. Actually, no, Miguel can keep his Triple Crown. Let's just take the MVP from him in 2012 and give it to Mike Trout. Let's do the same thing in 2013 as well, because if we're going to start bringing WAR into the equation and saying, well, he's got 3 times more WAR, he's got a 3 WAR, and Joe Adell's got a 1 WAR, with your nerd glasses, even though I have nerd glasses, it just drives me insane that, like, okay, now we're just going to switch the narrative over from, oh, well, look at the counting stats too. Well, he plays great defense. No, he doesn't. I watched him climb the wall 8 feet away from where the ball landed the other night. I forget who the Mariners were playing. And then because he made it look like it was a home run, even though it was a double. Oh, it was the Royals. Salvador Perez thought he had a home run because Julio climbed the wall 8 feet away from where the ball actually hit the wall. It bounced back into the field, and Julio thought it was a home run. So he tra-la-las after the ball, and everyone's like, did it go out? Did it not go out? And so Salvi just kept on running because he didn't know if it was a home run or not. It turned out it was just a double, but it was like, that's the defense that we get all high and mighty. Like, good grief, man. I can't understand this, like, idea that he gets in over Joe Adell. And look, if it was Springer, no complaints, because we just saw what Springer was able to do, and he's having a great season too. Yeah. So, and especially with how good the Blue Jays are, maybe that's a representative that you should have, somebody on a team that's actually doing really well right now.
I think it really has to do with winning. I think, honestly, that's what a hindrance for the Angels all the time, is that this team isn't winning. I know they're in contention. I get it, but they're not over 500. I think that has something to do with it, but it's so frustrating that there's always a deserving player and then somebody less deserving gets in. What's really frustrating is it's from the Mariners, right? The Mariners are just
right. Well, nerds. I look at like Jacob Wilson got in at shortstop, right? Yeah. And that was a fan vote. And so I'm like, all right, go baseball fans, because we know there's not that many athletics fans voting to get Jacob Wilson into this thing. But the fact is that there were smart people out there who know ball and went, you know what? Jacob Wilson's actually a better shortstop than Bobby Witt Jr. And Bobby Witt is somebody that everybody knows, and I like Bobby Witt. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, if it's a popularity thing, then you're going to go Bobby Witt Jr. But Jacob Wilson got in. Even Jeremy Pena got in. I know that he's on the Astros, and I know he's hurt right now. So that kind of opens up an opportunity for maybe Zach Neto to get in there somewhere. It would really come down between him and Witt. But yeah, I think it's so stupid. And you want to talk about winning. Like I said, how about the Blue Jays and their outfielder on a winning team, right?
Yeah. Now, one name that you brought up earlier is Reed Detmers. Now, Jared Timms tweeted this. I love this. You take away the 3 games where Detmers gave up 12 earned runs in a third of an inning, and he's got a 1.15 ERA in 39 innings pitched with 50 Ks.
Yeah.
So Reed could be somebody that maybe gets named, right? But he's going to be a middle of a reliever, maybe back into of a reliever type of guy. He's having a fantastic season, hasn't given up an earned run since May 17th. So this guy's been around and done a great job since he figured some things out. So that one feels like maybe a potential snub. I know Zach Neto feels kind of like a potential snub, but the truth is that the Angels had a lot of guys that would have been close to getting named, and then they've really started slumping. And like Logan O'Hoppe was tearing the cover off the ball.
Yeah.
But then June was just a really difficult month for him. And so not getting there, like, he deserves not get there, right? Yeah. And same thing with Mike Trout. Like, you're not going to get voted in. Well, bro, your numbers aren't jumping off the page. I get that your on base percentage is awesome, but you don't have numbers that are jumping off the page. So I would put Mike Trout in the Julio Rodriguez category.
Right.
Like,
that's popularity, right? That's the popularity contest.
Prove that you deserve to be there, right?
So I guess at the end of the day, it's also, the fervor for this team obviously is not what it was, a decade plus. Cause I remember, we had CJ Wilson and Albert Pujols and Mark Trumbo and Jared Weaver. Like, we had guys in the All-Star game that were getting voted in. And I know pitchers are the ones who get selected, but the fact is I think the fervor for the team is just not there because they haven't been good. And so it's going to take some time for these guys to become names that people are going to want to vote for come future All-Star games.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your next listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. You can find that on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. We would love to hear from you there. Also, we'd love to hear from you in the comments of today's show. So come on over to YouTube, find the episode, get into the comments section. We always do our best to get back to everybody. We definitely read all the comments, and then Mike and I team up and we try to get back to everybody because that's what we do on Locked On Angels. All right, Mike, on Wednesday, we got an interesting conversation, don't we?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the difference between Wash and Ray as managers of this team. There's one stat that I think tells the story, the difference between a Ron Washington and a Ray Montgomery. And we're going to share that stat with you, and then we'll discuss if maybe John agrees with me or not. I think it's very telling. John, we'll find out what you have to think tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Look, I know Ray just got tossed tonight or last night. So is that what we're talking about? No, I'm just kidding.
he does lead in that category.
Right. Yeah. Ray 1, Wash 0.
Yeah.
Also, remember how I did the 100 simulations of the draft lottery over the off season before it happened and the Angels got number 2, and my simulations actually turned out to say number 2 the most times, and you did that 100 times? What have you been doing all day? Well, I did a project, Mike, about the bullpen that I'm going to share tomorrow, and you're going to think I'm a psycho, but I did it, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Great.
And so I'm looking forward to that. We hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on a Wednesday.
When you say simulations, you feel like a mad scientist. I feel like you're like creating
100 tests.
It's like Terminator 2.
100 simulations.